Here's a little extra help for lesson 4 on cooperatives, where we were looking specifically at job descriptions and person specs to do with the values and principles of cooperative ownerships. All of that will make sense in a sec. Let's just plough on. So whilst this is a bit of a rogue lesson away from the normal format, the reason we're doing it is because understanding job description and person specification is really key for when you leave Key Stage 4 Year 11, when you are making your decisions on your next steps. So we need to spend a moment making sure you understand what's what with these two key documents for your future. You see, when you apply for a job, when you apply for any career path, even in universities, then you're going to look at perhaps a job description. A job description tells you exactly what you think you're going to see. This is the name of the job, this is how much the job earns, this is when the job works. These are the tasks that the job entails. But you're also going to get a person specification. Now that means it's the type of person that company or institution want to join them, because tasks are tasks. It's 1 + 1 = 2, that's a task, but they want to be able to match the right people, that's the right ethos in their company. So we're going to look at exactly what goes in a job description, and you're going to have a go at writing it, and you're going to have a look at a person specification so you can understand what we're talking about, which is primarily a lot about skills, that are learnt through experience, not necessarily out of a book. So here are the key principles of all cooperatives. They are about self-help and self-responsibility, democracy, equality and fairness, social responsibility and solidarity, and honesty and openness. And in the green are the key values of cooperatives. They are about membership has to be open and is voluntary, so anyone can join. Members are always in control, no matter how many shares a member has. It's only about having 1 vote. Number 3, members contribute to capital, that is money, and decide how to spend it. Number 4, they are committed to education and training of their members and employees. Number 5, they are committed to promoting the development of communities. And 6, profits are passed on to members fairly. Those are the values of cooperatives. A job description and a person specification. We're going to look at 2, and we're going to move forward to actually write a job description and a person specification, and we're going to write them based on the values and principles we've just covered, and we're going to make sure we can understand them going forward on the next slide, so that we can use the information and see how some of the values are actually related to what type of person you are looking for, because they want a particular type of person who shares their values, and the principles are very much about what actually goes on in terms of the management of a cooperative. So we can look at that in terms of a job description. We only want to write the 2 as a way to encourage membership, and we're only doing this in terms of a classroom exercise. So let's have a look at the scenario. You are a member of a cooperative. Your cooperative needs to attract more members, but they must be the right type of person in terms of their personal values. Use the 5 red bullet points from the last slide to write a person specification of who you would want to become a cooperative member. The person spec on the left in red is an example. The job description is on the right, that one's in green, because that will be the second task we're looking at. So let's look at the red person spec on the left first. If you see the headings, we've got attitude, skills, knowledge, experience, skills. There's a lot about attitude and skills. If we go back to the 5 bullet points from the last slide, we're looking at self-help, self-responsibility, democracy, equality and fairness, social responsibility and solidarity, honesty and openness. That's very, very much in terms of talking about someone's attitude. So in the red box here on this slide, you've got be honest, be willing to do activities, to muck in, to dress appropriately, have common sense. Now here we've got self-help, that's the one from the last slide, so you be able to go and find help yourself, take responsibility and accountability for your own actions, so that would be very much in terms of an attitude. In terms of skills, we've got that word democracy, so that would be what type of leader you are, whether you make sure that you listen to everybody involved and you take a fair attitude in terms of decisions that you make. Oh look, we're going into number 2 and 3. In terms of equality and fairness. We're also moving on to social responsibility, making sure you operate your business ethically. Now that might come under skills, whether you've got experience of doing it, and it could be an attitude because you've got to show that you're willing to do it as well. And solidarity is all about working together and wanting to back up colleagues and show that you are support each other. So that's your decision then on attitude and skills. And then honesty and openness. Well, attitude or skill, is it a skill to be honest, or is that an attitude? Is it a skill to be openness or an attitude? So you can work those ones out. Now let's look at the green box on the right. That is the job description. That is a general job description of an office services supervisor, but obviously we're not doing that, we're looking at a member of a cooperative. Now if we think back to the green section on the last slide where we looked at values, we can look at the main duties on this job description and think, oh okay, let's go back to these values and think, well, what things do the values say you have to do? Well, let's go straight to number 3. Number 3 says members contribute to capital and decide how to spend it. So a member of a cooperative has to contribute to capital. They have to have an investment in the business, there's a task, and decide how to spend it. So there's another task. They're part of the decision process in order to spend the investment to the value of the business. So we can turn that into a duty. If we then look at number 4, they are committed to education and training of their members, other people who have invested, and employees, who are the people who get paid to work in the cooperative. So that is a main duty as well, because they're looking at professional development of other members and of the employees. So we can break that down in terms of training, educating, supporting each other. And number 5, they are committed to promoting the development of communities. So we can turn that into a task. We can talk about what community activities are they doing, supporting schools, supporting litter picks, all sorts of things. And profits are passed on to the members fairly. Well, that obviously is a task in terms of making sure that the annual profits, because all companies will calculate their profits annually, and making sure there is a fair process to divvy them up amongst all memberships. Now that leaves number 1 and 2. Membership is open and voluntary. And number 2, members are always in control no matter how many shares a member has. They only get a single vote. So if we're looking at membership is open and voluntary, is that a job description, a duty, a task, or is that actually part of the person spec? There's a clue. And number 2, members are always in control no matter how many votes, how many shares they have, they only get 1 vote. So that could be a experience, knowledge. Is it a task? Operating with only 1 vote? Yes, that is a task, but making sure you have the right attitude to know that that's how you operate is the best idea. So there we go. There's a chat through all the values and principles and how they relate to these 2. In terms of the job title, the department and the purpose of the role, then we talked about a member, we talked about the cooperative business, and the purpose is about being an investor and part of the decisions. Responsible to and responsible for, as you can see on this green job description, we won't bother with those 2 because that bit's not quite relevant for our exercise today. In the red person specification, that's the bottom left box, have a look through it. There are 2 sections, things that a person must have with the attitude and skills, and at the bottom are things that the person would be good if they could offer that to the new company. Go through each of those sections, and in the box at the top you've got 5 things which you think are the most important. Could you write your top 5 in that box about which you think is the most important that a person should have? In the green job description below, have a read of that, and I'd like you to pick 5 things again which you think are the most important. Now, it's not about copying and pasting them, because if you look at number 2, there's 6 extra bullet points in there, so you need to choose which you think are the most important tasks that are included in this job description. Here's a few suggestions of what your top 5 on the red and top 5 on the green might look like. These are not, I'm not suggesting these are the correct answers, because this is all about what's important to you, so all answers are correct. This is just so that we've got something to discuss while we're looking at the lesson and staring at a screen. Let's compare that list that in the red square that we first started with the cooperative principles that we were reviewing. If you can see that in the cooperative principles we were actually looking at honesty and openness, we were actually looking at being sociable, and those are the words that we found in the person specification that we saw as well. So we're actually matching up some principles and person spec together. Now, these were the top tasks you thought were most important in the job description, and these are the suggested ones that I've written, but yours might be different. But remember, this is just for discussion. So here's the green post-it note. And if we look at some of the items on the green post-it note compared to the green values that we wrote down, we've got prioritising work. If we look at number 2, members are always in control. We've got training and assisting new staff. We look at number 4, they're committed to education and training of members and employees. Being responsible, then we've got that in terms of number 4, we've got that in terms of number 2. So all these things that we picked out as potential priorities in the job actually are priorities in the values of being a cooperative. This is where we're going to blend the two. We're going to use our priorities in terms of the task and the job description, and we're going to blend that with the values of a cooperative, and we're going to put that into a job description. And here's some examples of what it looks like. You'll see the green text that I've written into the job description as a suggestion, and you'll see that I've given the job the role title, a cooperative member. Department is the board of members, actually the directors. The main purpose of the role I've suggested about raising capital, making decisions, but I'd like you to extend the answer so that you justify what their position is. And then the main duties, this is where you're going to use the post-its and the priorities that you've been reading in that job description. You've got 5 to fill in, and you're going to justify, we're going to have an extended sentence on each of them. So that means some becauses and so that and in order to's will go into each of those sentences. Now we're doing the same thing, but this time we're looking at the principles of the cooperative, and you're going to compare these to the person specification that you read. This is all to do with the red colour codes. So there's a suggested red note at the bottom that I've made from the person spec, and let's compare that with the principles that we've seen. You'll see there was honesty, you'll see we've got being sociable, equality and fairness, that's about how you treat people and make sure everyone has a fair say. Democracy is about the one vote, everyone has one vote no matter how many shares that you hold. So now we're doing the same process about the principals. We're looking at the putting them into the person spec. So here's an example. We've got the candidate must. A candidate must be honest, but we want a reason for it. A candidate must be sociable, because that could be in the skills. And in the second section, that's it would be good if they. Now the reason person specs have those is because you've got to give a candidate the opportunity to stand out. So if these are the desirable, these are the opportunities for candidates who go for a job to actually add that something special. So here you give people a guidance of what you want them to offer that could benefit your company. So here we've got the knowledge, experience and skills, and we want the candidate to show knowledge of. We could talk about investments, being good with money, experience of running a team and training people. We could bring those things into it in terms of the principles that we talked about, any of the links between the notes and the principles of the red post-it note above. And the aim is that you have a completed job description based on the green values of a cooperative member, and you have a person spec based on the principles, which was all the red post-it notes.